Okay, deuterocanonical is a term that wasn't used in the Catholic Church until about 10 to 15 years after the Council of Trent in 1546. And actually, it's about 1555, 56 when Sixtus of Siena, a place in Italy, wrote about the proto-canonical and the deuterocanonical. The proto-canonical books were the ones that were found in the Hebrew Bible, and the deuterocanonical books are those that were found in the Septuagint. And the Catholic Church has accepted the deuterocanonical books as sacred scripture equal to all of the others. The Orthodox Church has, they don't use the term deuterocanonical, but they call them non-canonical Old Testament scriptures, which is an interesting discussion. The Russians, I got that when I was in Moscow a couple of years ago, and I said, wow, that almost sounds like a contradiction in terms. They call them non-canonical Old Testament scriptures. But others simply call them ecclesiastical writings, and Rufinus in the early 5th century identified them as ecclesiastical. That meant that they were good for reading. And Athanasius in 367 spoke about, he identified all of the books of the Hebrew Bible except Esther, and then he said, here's a group of books that are not canonical, but they are useful for reading in private, and he called them anagnos kamena, which means readable books. It's a Greek term, and it's quite popular among those in the East, the Orthodox to the East. So those books were viewed as valuable. Interestingly, the Protestants didn't stop including them in their Bibles for quite some period of time. I have a facsimile of the first English Bible, the King James English Bible, 1611, and it has the apocryphal books between the Old and New Testament. The Orthodox and the Catholics don't put them between the Old and New Testament. They put them in the same general genres, types of literature throughout their Old Testament. They mix them in between. Okay. But Martin Luther was the first to put them. He didn't like them at all, though he thought some of them were useful for reading. He hated Second Maccabees, but he put them between the Old Testament and the New, and that's been followed in English Bibles. The English Bibles, Protestant Bibles, carried them variously up until 1800. And then they stopped. 1850 may have been the last date for an English Bible with the apocryphal books in it between Old and New Testament. And then it started again with the RSV in 1950. So it varied for a period of time, but they were quite popular among the Protestants for quite some time. The closest thing we have to the Orthodox in the East, the Eastern Orthodox and the Oriental Orthodox, and if you want me to explain the differences, I will, is the Anglican Church that uses them, reads them for value, and they're the books of the soul. And that's a quote from Bovon, who was at Harvard for a number of years. They were valuable reading, but they were not canonical, and doctrine couldn't be based on them. And that's the Anglican tradition. They separate the books. They're not scripture, but they're useful for reading.
So it'd be like it'd be like how I would view the Apostolic Fathers.
Sure.
Reading First Clement and Polycarp's letter to the church at Philippi, or the fragments of Papias, or Ignatius's letters, right?
Well,
they're not considered a scripture or authoritative, but right. They are valuable for reading.
Yeah, and some early Christians considered First and Second Clement and Ignatius and the Didache and Epistle of Barnabas as sacred scripture, but eventually our 27 books of the New Testament didn't include those, but for centuries, some churches did. Okay. And in the case of the pseudepigrapha, Enoch is still in the Ethiopian biblical canon. And it was in Christians, Irenaeus called Enoch scripture, and so did Tertullian, and initially Origen in the 3rd century, and then by the end of that period of his life, he dropped it, and then it went off the edge along the way. So the deuterocanonical books now, I have been called hopelessly Protestant because I always referred to them as apocryphal. Apocryphal books for the Catholics and the Orthodox are rejected heretical books.